I don't know what to do after finding out my husband cheated. I recently found out my husband cheated on me recently. I'm currently pregnant and due very soon. When I found out, I confronted him and he denied it for a whole week, watching me cry and stress over it. Finally, on the 5th day, I sat him down and tried to talk. He started denying it even when I brought up the evidence. Eventually I said something that must have pulled on his heart because he finally decided to be honest. He brought the girl to our home. She said he denied being married and they had sex here. He says he did bring her, but the furthest thing they did was him fingering her. I'm well aware of how naive I am as a person, but I call bullshit. All this happened around 2 or 3 a.m. while I was at my parents' for the weekend. He said that they didn't have sex because he just got off work and was too tired and that he had work the next morning. He's lying. I'm not interested in a divorce, but what can I do to make him be effing honest? He says he lied because he didn't want to say anything until I gave birth and was scared for the baby. Since that conversation happened, I've not been feeling as shitty because now I know. But how do I move on? He's not done anything to show he'd like to work on me trusting him again, not done anything to even beg forgiveness. He just apologized and now acting like it never happened. Part of me feels he deserves some type of consequence, but what? Is a consequence even going to stop him from doing so again? He says he's sorry, but this doesn't feel like someone who's remorseful. He also insisted I know it wasn't anything I did and how he's at fault for breaking our vows. Guys who are reading this as a man, what is your take? Comment. I was about to say the same. If she stays with him, then she can't really be mad, or at least not surprised when he cheats on her over and over again. He's not the least bit sorry, so he's not going to change his ways. Personally, much rather be a single mom than stay married to someone who doesn't love and respect me. I found my husband infidelity during the pregnancy of my second child. Tried to fix it, it didn't work out. I am a single mom of 2, so much happier than ever. Trust me, you deserve to be happy and respected. Divorce was the worst and best thing that happened to me. Check other post on infidelity. Your story is one is so many. Yeah, lack of remorse is the #1 giveaway. This guy doesn't care what he did. He placed his needs above his family, his marriage age vows, and risked all kinds of things besides breaking trust. The amount of cheating stories I read where someone catches something while cheating but doesn't tell the partner, or they fall in love with their AP, like at this point up needs to be prepared their husband will carry on an affair again with the same person or someone new. But also their husband is going to get more cunning, better at lying, and hiding everything. $10 says he's going to knock up someone else in 5 years' time, divorce up for this other woman, or keep an ongoing affair where he supports both women. Her post history is so upsetting. Young ladies, take notes. First, he starts attempting to control her, acting jealous and paranoid whenever she leaves the house. Then he ramps it up right after marriage and starts isolating her from her social circle. Now she's pregnant and boom, he's cheating and doesn't even give a fuck. He has her right where he wants her, trapped and so broken down that she'll tolerate his abuse because she can no longer see the reality of her situation, that she'd be much better off without him. Abusers start out gradually and work on picking apart your personhood and your self-esteem, so once they start showing their hideous true colors, you'll somehow think you deserve it, or that if you just do the right things it will all go back to normal. But it'll only keep getting worse. Guys who get jealous like that aren't being protective and loving, they're projecting because they think everyone is like them, and they would cheat whenever they have the chance. Run for your fucking lives at the first red flag and never look back. I wish posters like Up would spend 30 minutes to an hour just reading posts on the surviving infidelity sub. It's so eye-opening and mind-blowing the steps people have to take to make their marriage work after a spouse cheats. Even after all the work, all the years, all the heartache, all the emotions, they never truly recover. They just have a new normal of what their marriage is going to be like. It's tough, but it's just, in the long run, easier to cut your losses sooner than later. This is the reality she needs to face. She may want to stay with him and work it out, but he is not remotely remorseful for cheating and he will absolutely do it again. So you have to decide if your husband screwing around for the rest of your married life is something you can accept, because that is what he is going to do. If not, you need to protect yourself. Next story 2. My dad cheated on my mom while she was dying. Now that she's gone, I don't know what to do. Growing up, he'd always say that he'll never put anything past anyone can screw you over. A few years ago I was in a relationship with a person I loved who cheated. My dad's response? Well baby, everyone is going to cheat on you. If you were to ask him now, he'll claim he never said it. My belief is he was overtired at the time and spoke from instinct rather than filtered thought. I knew he'd been cheating on my mom for a while, years, and she knew it too, but told me that she was too old to throw a fuss and stress over it. This last year, my mom was very sick. In and out of the hospital, multiple major surgeries. They didn't have a good marriage and argues all the time, but they were both retired and I expected him to be there. Yet every time I turned around he had another excuse for why he couldn't go to the hospital, even though she asked. I have things to do, sir. What things? You're retired. Things were on an upswing with her health, and after a major organ transplant we thought she was going to make it. Then she suddenly died from a complication last month. To say I'm devastated is an understatement. I'm doing my best to give myself space to grieve. Long story short, I found out he was still having an affairs, when we were at the funeral home coordinating her service and burial, and I saw a text thread with his mistress. A mistress he'd been in contact with for the entire year my mom was dealt ill. A mistress that he referred to me a few years ago to do my taxes, as she's an accountant, and a mistress he's still in contact with not even a week after his wife died. I began this post because soon after I stared at the now empty closet that used to contain my mom's clothes, I heard him on the phone a few moments ago, with the TV blaring so he thought I couldn't hear, on the phone calling her baby and saying I love you. Part of me wants to believe that they had an open marriage that I didn't know about, because it makes it easier than stomaching the fact that not only is he a terrible person, but that I'm losing two parents at the same time because he can't be my father anymore. Now I'm left wondering, once we finalize what we need as far as my mom's estate goes, which will take a few months, where do I go from here? How do I end my relationship with him and heal? For my mother's memory but also for the health of my own relationship and self-worth, I can't be around him. Being with him, even before finding this stuff out, makes me believe I can't trust anyone, that everyone can/will hurt me, so I should hurt them first. I've tried for years to climb out of that hole and don't want to go back. Edit, my apologies, I feel I should clarify, he did show up to the hospital, but it was roughly 3x a week, maybe 4, and he would leave as quickly as he could. Usually he'd stay for 2 to 3 hours, but half of that time was spent going in and out, and if she was sleeping when he arrived he'd quickly leave and say he stopped by, but my mom kept asking him to visit more. She wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but if the roles were reversed, she would have been there. For context, she was in the hospital for roughly 6 months out of the past year, and incredibly lonely. He also was supposed to be her caretaker when she came home for a few months, before the transplant, and I came to the house one time to find her doing a procedure on herself that he was supposed to do. They had him trained for over a month and wouldn't discharge her until he proved he could do it well, because the risk for infection was so high. Fun fact, she ended up getting an infection, which led to her moving up on the transplant list again and getting it. I don't blame him for her death, but that context has made all of this even more frustrating. Comment. I think you tell him what you said here. You tell him you love him, but his attitude on relationships is abhorrent and you can't forgive him for refusing to see his wife in the hospital and instead being with his mistress. His behavior was disrespectful, disgusting, and recast how you see him as a man, a father, and a role model in your life. You've grown up now and realized he's not a hero or super dad. He's not a gentleman. He's not noble, honorable, or dutiful. He's just a sad man chasing whatever indulgence comes his way with no regard for how he makes others feel, and while you love him, he's not a person you want to be around anymore. I think that would get your point across. I'd ask him straight up, how would you feel if you were dying and I just left you in the hospital to die alone like you did to your wife? Your attitude is disgusting and I'm appalled. You've acted selfishly and I'm struggling to find respect for you right now. Well said. I actually knew somebody who did this. They cheated on their wife, while she was dying of cancer. They were a very good friend of mine. I simply sat them down and told them that I had lost all respect for them, that they weren't the person that I thought that they were, and I didn't want them in my life anymore. That was my decision to make. Every action has a reaction. I agree totally. Actions have consequences. I'm amazed, but not surprised, when I hear about people who act like this. I despise cheaters in general, but to conduct an affair while your so is dying is inhumane. It's a level of self-indulgence so mindless that I question whether the person making that decision has the moral capacity to even be considered human. I believe in forgiveness, but only to those worthy of being forgiven. Someone who cheats on their dying wife is beyond my capacity to forgive. I don't know. If Op wants a relationship with dad, she can. For me, if one of my parents did this to the other, I would step way back and out of the relationship with the cheating/abandoning parent. You only confront if you don't want to be alienated. I would want to go LC to NC with Op's dad. I kind of agree with you. I could not have a relationship with a parent who acted this way to the other parent. If they act that way to their spouse, where are they going to be? When I need them the most, how are they actually going to add anything to my life? They become a useless item that I don't need in my life anymore. They would definitely be out the door. Oh, this hits hard. Because that was the same with my family. But the difference here, it was my grandparents, mom's parents, and my dad who didn't give a fuck that she died from breast cancer. Everyone tried to get me to be like mom, take care of everyone and everything, while my grandparents and my GC aunt, mom's sister, tried to trap in paying back a 20-year-old back rent debt dad and mom supposedly owed. Told everyone to go fuck themselves and left them in the dust.